tell you, that's an experience. No, wait a minute. I've got a lot of things you don't know about Marty, boy. And one of them is, I used to hate it. Oh, it was the worst scene. I used to dread it. I could see it coming like a glacier towards me. Inevitable. I mean, you couldn't fight it. And it was in the springtime, when you should be happy. I mean, you should be running like a free bird in the air. And about, I would say, it would begin roughly my worry and my fear, the gut ache of total fear would begin about the end of March and would slowly creep up. You know what it was? Tag Day. You never heard of Tag Day, have you? Yes, you've seen it. Anybody who's ever played in a high school band knows what Tag Day is. One of the great evils. Now, what is Tag Day? Well, I'll tell you what Tag Day is. In the springtime, say, they have these big band concerts all over there. You know, not only concerts, but contests. In other words, the band will travel to Goshen, Indiana, to take part in the state contest. And then from Goshen, if you win first place in the Class A band category, you move on to Indianapolis. And then, you take on everybody. And then you win first place in that one, and then you go to the Nationals, which could very well be in Punxsutawney, or, places like Salt Lake City. Well, this takes scratch. And so, every spring, it would come on inevitably. About the middle of, about the middle of March, it would start getting serious. And Mr. Dirks, our band director, would stand up there in front of us, and we were having our rehearsals every night after school. We'd have a rehearsal from 3:30 to 4. Oh, I loved it. I enjoyed it. I liked to play in the band. Every night from 3:30 to 5:30, something like that, we'd have a big... And the rehearsals would get more involved as we get closer and closer to the time when we're going to be playing before the big contest. Now, maybe you don't know how band contests work, how they even judge them. Well, I'll tell you. There's three categories when you're playing in a band, at least in the major contest, and it's this way. A selected piece. In other words, the band picks something that it itself wants to play in its performance in the contest. And now this piece is usually selected from a great list that is submitted to band directors that they can choose from. And they have all degrees of difficulty. You can choose anyone. And by the way, this is also a National Orchestra contest. So you can choose something really difficult, like the Wagner's Entrance of the Gods into Valhalla, which is a fantastically tough piece for the wind instruments. Oh, wow. Which we did one year, and I'll tell you, more guys got busted blood vessels and everything from playing it. All right. And you're judged on that, see? So you're judged by musicologists and critics who sit there and listen to see how well you do it. All right, then the second category is what they call required things. Now, what is a required thing? Well, a required thing is that the band is given a list of required music. It's like the required figures in a figure skating contest. When you're an ice skater, they have what they call school figures. And a school figure is a figure that all people competing in ice skating have to perform. Then they can be judged, you see, by doing the same thing. So somebody does a double axel, and they come out, and the next guy does it, and they can judge him because they're doing the same things. Well, that's the required piece. And then the sneakiest one of all is sight reading. That means really how good are you as a musician? Can you really read music? And so the way that works is that after you have finished your required number, you're up there, you play. So let's say you play the 1812 Overture, which we did one year. Oh, what a killer. Oh, I love that. Booming through that. There's a bass section in that thing that is the longest cadenza ever written for bass. And it just goes on and on and on. It goes like 42 bars, and the bass is carried a whole lot. It's like, it's like all of a sudden the guards in the football team are scoring the touchdowns. And it's a great feeling if you're a guard. Well, basses rarely are nothing but guys sitting in the back there, It provides the body of the music and all that. The bass is probably the most important, really, ultimately, the most important instrument of the whole sound of an orchestra. But it's rarely given credit. Well, I played string bass. I also played sousaphone. and we double. So the real test of a band is when they give you this thing with the sight reading. Well, how does it work? Well, you played your required numbers, say. Okay. Now your required number is the 1812 overture. Now that isn't required. Now let's say that's your selected number. Okay, that's the one you've chosen to play. Now they know that you've been rehearsing this for a whole year. You knew you were coming to this contest, so you've been working on this thing for a whole year. Every night you play the 1812 overture. You work over every section, and then you work it backwards and forwards. You work over each part until finally, by the time you play it, you should be impeccable. Well, then you play the required one. Well, now they can ask you of the required numbers to play one. In other words, you're not sure which one they're going to ask you about. So they will say, would you please, on the day you're up on a stage, they pass a little slip up out of the list. They'll say, play Entrance of the Gods into Valhalla, Wagner, second movement. And they pass the music out. Well, theoretically, you've worked on all these music. You see, this is a test to see what your repertoire is like. And you finish that. And then hell breaks loose. You finished now the Entrance of the Gods into Valhalla. Now you're really nervous because this is the one that is really the bummer. On every music stand is a sealed envelope. Nothing on it, just a white envelope with the name of the instrument written on it in pencil. It says first chair bass, second chair bass. Or it'll say first trumpet, second trumpet. Just a part number written on it. First French horn, second French horn. Second clarinet, third clarinet, timpani. It's all neatly sealed. And you sit on the stage. And there's a clock. Big clock. It's been brought in, and it hangs on the wall with a big sweep second hand. And at that point, the judge, who is sitting down in the auditorium, you're playing for about 8 people, which makes it even worse. And they're all sitting there with notebooks and looking mad. So the judge, he gives a signal to the conductor. He just waves his hand. He says, all right, now. And they press a button, and the clock starts to go. You can see the big second hand. And with that, Mr. Dirks turns, and he goes, he taps on the music stand, and everybody instantly opens the sheet. He opens this envelope that is in front of him, and now, for the first instant, we know what we're going to play. Now, what have they done to it? They have cut the name off the music. All it is a sheet of music. It's been, printed sheet, and they've clipped off the name. There's no way. In other words, it could be Old Black Joe. It could be, Down by the Old Mill Stream. But you have to be able to read it. You can't say, oh, yeah, I know that tune. Hey, it's Down by the Old Mill Stream, you guys. What the hell this thing is. And Mr. Dirks then, he doesn't know either. See, he's the conductor. He's opened this thing up, and he's looking at his score now for the first time. And so he quickly looks through it to see if there's, anything that really looks like a real hang-up, like an unbelievable peckhorn solo in the middle of it all, see. And then he turns, hey, basses. Go down to number 3 in the coda. Look at that. That's a B flat. Hit it right on B flat. And when I say retard, watch that retard there. Trumpets, look at page 2. The second measure, the second line on page 2. Yeah, number 34. You got that? All of you. That. Hit it clean. That. And we're given 5 minutes to read it. You can't play anything out loud. 5 minutes, you can't talk. You sit there. 5 minutes to read your music. Look at it. And you can run over the finger. You can't blow. You just run over the fingering in your own, like faking it, like just running your hands over the finger, and you look at this thing. And Mr. Dirks is up there reading his. And that clock is ticking away, and they're watching you. 4 minutes and 27 seconds have gone by. 4 minutes and 38 seconds have gone by. And Mr. Dirks is looking a little nervous, and I could see the sweat running down over his bald head. You could see the guys in the trumpet section starting to shift around, and they're setting their mouthpiece in. They're crouching down. we don't know what this thing even sounds like, because, you know, in a big organization like an orchestra or a band, your part may sound nothing like the completed music. In other words, you may be playing the bass, and it may go boom, boom, ba, ba, boom, 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 ba, ba, boom, 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 ba, boom. And there's no way for you to know what this whole thing sounds like. The trumpets may have one long 3 or 4 or 5 measure section that just goes pop up, pop up, pop, 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 pop. No way. Well, that's an exciting. I bet you've never heard anything like this, did you? You didn't know they did these things. And then at exactly 5 minutes, they go up. A bell goes. That means it's all over. Let's hear it now. And Mr. Dirks stands up on the platform, and he pantomimes. He pantomimes to you the beat he's going to play, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and he motions, and boom, the band starts to play. See, it roars out. And theoretically, it should sound like this. Well, I want to tell you that is a scary moment. The first measure of any sight reading contest is one of the most tentative things you've ever heard in your life. It's like somebody walking over, attempting to wade a lake of quicksand. And he's trying to walk light and tiptoe. Figures he can get over it if he tiptoes. This one year, we had this. If you look in this thing, take a look at that record and find in there's El Capitan. Well, one year, among our other things, we had picked as a selection. In other words, as a thing we were going to do, we played El Capitan. Now that's a very showy number, and by the way, a very difficult one. It's one of the most difficult of all the standard traditional marches. Every part in there is a real zinger. And so, on that day, they reversed the order on us, some crazy reason, and we finished the required number, and then they asked us to play the sight reading number. Well, we opened up the envelopes, and I couldn't believe it. The first 32 bars of my piece of music was rest. I had nothing to play. I looked at this thing, turned the page, and there were a couple of notes on the other side, and then there was about 15 gigantic credenzas, a lot of wild, involved credenzas and cadenzas, and then there was a couple of other bars of rest, but for the first 32 bars, nothing. Well, I saw a couple of other guys looking around, seeing the other sections there. You couldn't talk to them. Well, when the 5-minute time was up and Dirks gave the downbeat, it was wild. He just goes, he's got a funny look on his face. A real strange look. And he kept pantomiming to some section down there. I couldn't quite see who he was talking to. Making funny faces, because he couldn't talk to them. And so when the time came and he tapped his stick, he just was slow tapping. All right. The beat was going to be like this. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Range beat. So he goes. And he gave the downbeat. There wasn't a sound. Except one oboe played a high, thin, quavering, mournful obligato. And the oboe started out with a long, high, thin fantastic. We knew we were in. By a stroke of uncommon luck, the piece of music they had selected for us had a 30-bar solo before anything else happened by the oboe. It so happened we had probably the best oboe player in the high school world, quite probably in the United States. In fact, that oboe player was so good, the girl, that she was playing with the Chicago Symphony as a 13 or 14-year-old. Oh, incredible oboe player. In fact, she's still with them. And so, had they given any other section, I mean, for example, had it been a peck horn, forget it. You know what a peck horn is? It's a French horn. We had French horns that sounded like a bunch of kids letting air out of balloons. We just never had a good peck horn section, but we had the best oboe section. And Ruth started to play that oboe. Oh, it was unbelievable. And I saw the judges. We could see them down there. The judges all of a sudden sat up and leaned forward. It's a fantastic moment. We were in before we even blew a note. I mean, the rest of the band, the orchestra, we're just sitting back there, and I'm counting out 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, and I hear Ruth. She is filling that auditorium with music like you never heard. You could see the judges leaning forward. Like all of a sudden, in this high school band, or this high school orchestra, this would happen to be an orchestra, by the way, Isaac Stern, as a kid, had stood up and started to play, and leaning forward. Oh, Dirk's our director. He's just beaming, he's directing away there. And then at the end of 32, 31, and I'm counting 31, 2, 3, 32, 2, 3, and my one note, boom, lay it out. My God. Boy, listen, I want to tell you, you know that a piece of music where you have one or two very crucial notes is more difficult for a performer than a piece of music where you have many notes, often, and for a number of technical reasons. However, we just sailed through that, and Ruth is carrying over it, that high, thin oboe. And then, after we finished that was the sight reading. We were just fantastic in the sight reading. You hear them. And here we are now. It's a curious kind of letdown. And now we're about to play our selected number. And so Mr. Dirks turns and says, just as a demonstration of dynamics on the part of the band, we're about to play now El Capitan. And he turns around, gives us the beat. And we roared out. And it's funny, I know every note of this thing. We've played this over and over so many times. So right now, even today, I know every note. The bass, boom, 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 you hear the basses right there? So you heard every bass note there. And those things stick with you. It's a very eerie situation when you know one section, one piece of music, one section intimately. So about the middle of March, Dirks makes his dreaded announcement. We just received the okay from the school board. Tag Day this year will be April 22nd. I want all of you to write it down in your notebook now because we want everybody out there. And anybody who is not at Tag Day had better have a very good excuse because, as you know, Already we're way behind in funds because of what happened last year with the concert. As you know, only 12 tickets were sold. So now we're going to have to really make this Tag Day go. It was always held on Saturday. The idea being that most people were off work Saturday. That is, the people in this is a mill town. And so most of the guys were off work Saturday. And they were all walking around town shopping, right down the middle of town, the whole big town. We'd stand up in front of the department stores, in front of the hardware stores, and they would assign you a corner. So that the morning of Tag Day, I would hate it. The whole week, I'm getting sicker and sicker in my gut. About the middle of March, after Dirks makes the announcement, that sickness starts to fill in, my gut. And I'd actually start getting sick, I'd start feeling rotten. Every time they mention it, my stomach, I don't know what's the matter, I feel rotten today. Well, of course, it was Tag Day coming up. Because I had gone through two of these things, and they're total hell. Well, Saturday finally arrives after about, 3 days before I'm having hot flashes and falling down the stairs because I can't see, and I feel rotten, and I keep telling my mother, I don't know what's the matter, I can't go to school. She said, get out, it's Tag Day coming. And I go staggering off, and they're getting all excited. So Friday night, we're having our big band rehearsal, and we finish with the El Capitan. I get whatever you got, put it on. So we finish playing, see. Now we're blowing. I'm feeling good, Whenever I'm blowing, I'm feeling fine. So all of a sudden, right in the middle of the number, Dirk says, all right, okay, all right. We only got 5 more minutes. Now it's Tag Day tomorrow. Oh, God, I forgot about it. So it's Tag Day. Ernie, hey, Ernie, would you go back in the band room and bring out the cans, Ernie, and bring out the tags. I want them all distributed before tomorrow morning. And all of you section heads, are all prepared for transportation, everything tomorrow morning? I want all of you on the streets. Now, don't forget it. All of you on the streets, no later than 6:30 a.m. We want to get the people when they're coming in from work. We want to get them when they're going to work. We don't want to get them after they're through. We want to get them on their way. We want to start out at 6:30, and I want to see anybody leaving the streets until after Goldblatt's closes. Now, Goldblatt's closes at 9:30 on Saturday. So we don't want to leave the streets till 10 o'clock tomorrow night. Now, all set now. Bring out the tags. And they start passing around these. We had our school color was a sickening color. I mean, most school colors, but ours was unbelievably bad. With purple and white. Now, there is no color that fades quicker than purple. Purple, after you get a purple sweater, purple and white, purple scarf. After 5 minutes, you have a vaguely grayish rose-colored scarf with tattletale gray markings. And that's the purple and white. I hated the sight of that purple and white. I wonder how many kids hate the sight of their school colors just because they're there. They represent all kinds of stuff. So along comes the cans, big purple and white cans. What they did, they'd get a whole lot of empty Dutch cleanser cans. And they got them from the Dutch Cleanser Company. I've always remembered the Dutch Cleanser Company with great affection because of that. The cans like that. And they sent them a whole bunch of empty ones that were sealed. No Dutch cleanser in them, but they were sealed. And so with that, they would make slits in the top of them. And then the ladies of the PTA would cover the cans with purple and white crepe paper, and stripes all the way around, with a great big white and purple H on the side. And each one of us were given one of these little beauties. And in addition to that, each one of us was handed a great big wad of these tags, purple and white tags, that says, I am a booster at a Hammond High Band. That kind of stuff. Big tag with strings. The tools of torture. At night, I go home with my can, my tags, and it's, I know, because you just don't know unless you've begged. You don't know how unbelievably humiliating it be. It just can give it, the looks you get, the comments you get, the feeling of standing out there with a can in your hand saying, hey, sir, please. Oh, I hate that. I am not a beggar. I just can't do it. Well, I had to do it. I mean, there was not either or. I mean, I just had to do it. So that night I'm sleeping. I go to bed and I'm sleeping. Fitfully. I'd wake up in the morning and I could see those faces, those the face of total disdain of the typical guy says, "Get out of my way, you panhandler." Oh. The fish-eyed look of the lady who comes in. And then there's always one smart guy says, "How's this, kid?" And he drops a penny in a can loudly. "Give me a tag." "What? Ham and high band? All the noise you guys are... Get out of here." Oh. Fitful sleep. And finally, about 3:45 a.m., I fall into a doze. And without warning, it is suddenly 6 o'clock, and I am putting on my band uniform. You had to go out and wear your uniform. And we had a uniform that had, it was kind of a military type, a little like the West Point uniform. With the sharp jacket that had to cut in, and the converging row of brass buttons. And it was a purple, dark purple, but it did not have any white, thank God. No white trim on it. It was purple with black and red trim. It was kind of a sharp uniform. But there was one thing wrong with it. This uniform was made of the scratchiest material. It was like putting on a suit made out of carborundum paper. And now, again, I say that there are some people who don't notice scratchy wool. I've noticed some people can put on wool bathing suits, nothing. I get itchy every time I think of wool. I hate it. I hate wool. I hate itchy. Ooh. So I put on my uniform. It's 6 o'clock in the morning. It's itchy. It's scratchy. And I've got on, and yet we all had to wear this crisp white shirt. Absolutely crisp white shirt. That was absolute order. The black tie. The coat. The hat. Jazzy hat. And it's 6:17 a.m. I step out on my street corner. I was standing near this dry goods store, the Bon Marche dry goods store, and there's nothing. A couple of steel workers walking by, and I've got my can, and my day of humiliation has begun. Steel worker walking along, a chew of tobacco in his trap, and I say, "Excuse me, sir. Do you care to help the Ham and High band?" I'm not bad. Hey, let's see. "What is that?" "Excuse me, sir, Ham and High band." "Get out of our way, you split up. Anyway." And he goes, "All right, that's the first strikeout now." And the temperature starts to go up. It turns out to be exactly 107 degrees in the shade by 9 o'clock in the morning, and I'm wearing my wool uniform. And the people are walking by, and every half hour somebody puts a nickel in my can. And the humiliation is growing and growing and growing and growing. And by noon, I have given away only 9 tags out of a possible 7,000. And by 6 o'clock that evening, I'm seeing nothing but a long, long, endless gray stream of faces with a faint, disdaining sneer showing from the purple and green and gray eyes that keep moving by. Tag day. At 10 o'clock that night, it's all over. I hand in my can, and they had one merciful thing. Nobody's name was put on any can. Nobody knew how much any one single kid got. And so at the end of the day, I would hand in my $1.27. After a day of standing in the shame and the heat. Oh, tag day.